that will help me find out whether or not there's things that you can do yourself. Maybe there's some things that I can help you with, and maybe there's some things that I can organise other people to come in and help you with. How does that sound?
Okay.
Good. So the conversation is going to be in 3 parts, and at the end of each part, I'm going to just check in with you and see how you're doing, see if you want to continue. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if at any point you want to stop, just let me know and we can stop and we can rearrange to meet another time. Okay?
Okay.
Well, one of the things is you might see me taking a couple of wee notes. Don't worry about that. That's just to help me be able to reflect back to you the things that seem to be important to you, things that might be important for you to change. And you're very welcome to get a copy of what I've written down. And so just try your best to relax and we'll have a bit of a conversation. Okay. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. So could you start off, Kathy, by just telling me a wee bit about your typical week?
I don't know really. I mean, well, since COVID, I really, during it and now, don't really do very much at all. I'm just really in the house most of the time. We've got the doctor's appointment that I go along to, and that I've been checking on my breathing and things. But just takes me all the time just getting up and pottering around and getting out for my shopping and things.
Right. So do you go for your shopping like somewhere local or?
Well, there's not that many shops here in Bingham. And I don't really even know the area. I mean, I've been here for like 2 years, but I've literally moved in just before the lockdown. So I just go to the shops. You know, sometimes I try and walk down as far as Farm Foods, but sometimes that's a bit too far for me.
Right.
About maybe once a week, I'll take the bus down to Asda.
Right.
But you know, I've just watched how much I'm carrying back. Otherwise, it's just a little shop at the end of the road there.
Yeah.
It's quite expensive.
It's quite a distance as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Going down to Asda. You were saying there that, you know, since COVID, you've been in this kind of routine. Was it different before COVID?
Yeah, well, I left him. I mean, I left Neil just really at the new year, just before COVID. And well, I've left my home, I've left everything behind, and I suppose I'm lucky that the council managed to find a little house for me here.
Is Ian your husband?
It was Neil.
Neil,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
Neil, he was your husband?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We've been married for 35 years.
Right. And so you've just separated recently?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just couldn't take it anymore.
And when was that?
Just January, well, 2 years ago past now.
Okay, just before COVID?
Literally just before COVID.
Right.
And I got one of the small pensioners' houses here in Bingham just for myself. You know, just one of the little cottages.
Right. And where were you living when you were with Neil?
Over in Portobello, that's where my daughter still is.
Oh, I see. Right. At least it's not too far to see your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so going back to your typical week, so you don't get out of the house much, but what's your week like,
well,
apart from going shopping? I get up and I tidy up a wee bit, and I found myself getting hooked onto all this TV programs that I never used to watch before. Right.
And then I can't be doing with the news, so I tend to make a sandwich or a cup of soup or something like that, maybe at lunchtime.
Right.
When the news is on. And if I've got my shopping to do, I tend to go out sort of after my lunch, just to break the day up a wee bit in the middle. And then back in and that TV's back on, and I'll just watch Tipping Point or whatever else is on. And then I really just don't do very much at all. I'm just fed up, and well, my breathing's, you know, I don't always have the energy to do much either, but I'm really not. In a normal week, that's really all I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then I'll see Claire, my daughter. Well, she'll come over one Saturday morning, and then I'll maybe meet her in a coffee shop in Portobello the next Saturday. So I tend to see her about once a week.
Oh, that's good.
And that's about it.
And
that's about the only thing I really do.
Yeah. What about before, when you lived in Portobello? Did you have a bit more structure to your week, or what was it like?
I mean, obviously it was before COVID, so I had friends that I'd known because I'd lived there for a long time. I moved there from Fife when we got married, so well, about a year after we got married, and so I had friends there. I used to go to the bingo once a week with my pal, and I had another friend that I would just go a walk along the main street and in and out of a few shops or whatever with her. And that, but well, she died during COVID, so I've sort of lost her.
Sorry to hear that.
And my pals that went to bingo, well, they still go to the bingo, but I didn't really see them outside of the bingo to, you know what I mean, to have a lot of contact with them.
Yeah.
We just met there each week. And that, but I just knew people there that if I went out for a wee walk, I would see folk and I would stop and speak to them and things. It wasn't that I did a lot, but it just felt like there was more to do. I just don't know anyone here.
Right. So would it be fair to say you kind of miss the social aspect of where you lived before? And
I miss my house. You know what I mean? We'd been in that house all those years. I just couldn't take his drinking anymore. And the way he was treating me, and he's still there. He's still got my house. Yeah.
So in your new place, because of COVID and whatever, you haven't really managed to make any kind of new friends?
Well, I was scared to go out. You know what I mean? The doctors call it COPD, but you know, I mean, I've always had asthma, and now they've given it a different name and that. So they told me I had to be really careful. So I mean, I've just stayed in because of that. So I've never really got to know anyone. And then the woman that was next door sort of said hello when I first moved in, but she's moved out, and I don't know who some chap in the zone, I think it's moved in next door, so I've never spoke to him.
Yeah. So not having any friends here, how's that kind of impacting on you?
It's lonely. It's lonely, you know what I mean? I'm just sort of stuck here.
Yeah. I'm maybe going to come back to that, if that's okay, Kathy, later on. So I get the impression you've got a lot of time on your hands, and you know, more recently your kind of main pastime's been watching TV. Apart from the bingo, did you have any other kind of pastimes before, or hobbies or things that you used to like to do?
Well, I had a sewing machine and that, so I used to do a bit of sewing, sometimes for the grandchildren or that. But well, when I left everything behind, so I don't have that with me. Right. You know, he's still got the house and he's still got all my things really in it. So
I take it the sewing machine won't be much use to him.
No, but I'm not going back to get it.
Yeah.
So you know,
is it something that you would like to get, or if someone got it, or?
It's pretty old, but I'd like to have this. I'd like to be able to do that sort of thing again.
Right. Were you quite an experienced sewer?
Well, I worked. That's what I did when I worked before I had the kids. I worked in a factory. So sewing's always, you know, at one point I made my money out of it. And I suppose over the years I've done bits and pieces for folk that have paid me for wee bits and pieces, but you know, I had the kids and that, and then my health just wasn't so good, so I've not sort of worked for a long time. And
how long ago was it that you stopped working?
Well, I've had little jobs, but the last time I had a full-time job was before I had my daughter, and well, she's 31 this year. So.
All right. But when did you stop working?
Well, I had a cleaning job maybe 5-10 years, 5-6 years ago, but it was too much for me. I wasn't coping with my breathing, and I couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah. So So your main pastimes is sewing and
So, and just being
any other
friendly.
kind?
I just sort of knew my neighbours and was friendly with folk. I don't know that I did an awful lot, like I
Yeah.
say, but I was there for neighbours if they needed help, and they were there for me, and I was just friends with them.
Sure. Yeah. So you kind of miss that social circle.
I miss that, yeah. And
can I go back to when you were talking about your daughter being in Portobello? Do you have other family? Has she got any kids or? Yeah,
I've got a son. He'd enough of his dad's drinking years ago. He was telling me to get away years ago.
Right.
And he was moved down to London. He's got quite a good job down there, but he just hasn't been home for years. He's just, and he got so angry with me not doing something about it years ago that I really haven't heard very much from him.
Right. How do you feel about that?
I was angry with him at the time, and now I can see in some ways that he was right. He was angry with me as well, but it was more because he could see what I was living in that I wasn't willing to see at the time. And though he knows I'm here, well, partly with COVID, he wasn't able to come up, and I didn't want him to come up because I didn't really want anyone in the house.
When was the last time you saw him?
Oh, I think it must have been when his sister had the wee one, so that would be 5 years ago.
Right, as long as that. Would you like to see him?
I'd love to see him.
Right. If it's okay, I'll maybe come back to that.
And my daughter, she's married. She's got 2 kids. They're 8 and 5. They're lovely girls.
Right.
And when I was in Portobello, it was easier to see them. But I mean, I really haven't been like using the buses and things. You know what I mean? And
do they come and see you?
Well, they'll come over with their mum, but really, because of the hours that she works and stuff, she tends to come on a Saturday morning. She tends to come when they're at their dancing classes. So she drops them off, comes and sees me, and goes back. If you like, to fit me in along with her busy life. So I tend to just see them like once a fortnight. If I go over and I meet my daughter in Portobello, we'll go and pick them up from dancing, and some weeks we'll take them to the cafe or that, and I'll see them for a wee while for lunch.
Okay.
Or that.
So that's useful, Kathy. That starts to give me a bit of a picture of your week and your social contacts and who's in your life at the moment. That's the end of the first part. Are you okay to keep going? Yeah. So I want to move on to you've mentioned a couple of times your breathing. And so this question is really about kind of looking after yourself. Do you feel that you get the time to look after yourself?
I've got all the time in the world. I don't know that I look after myself very well. I use my inhalers that the doctor gives me. And depends what you say about looking after yourself. You know what I mean? I'm able to look after the house enough, sort of tidying it and that for me. But I mean, the doctor's spoken about me doing some gentle exercises. I didn't do that.
So you find it difficult walking, or?
If I go any distance, it's not that the legs won't work; it's the breath and the energy to do it.
It's a kind of chicken and egg, isn't it?
That's it.
Once you go through, my dad's actually got COPD, so I know a wee bit about it. And other kind of aspects of looking after yourself, how are you getting on?
Just get on. I mean, I just do what I need to do, I suppose. My daughter says I should do more for myself. I think she thinks I've got money to do things for myself, like nice things that I don't have anymore.
So I was going to ask you about that later on. I mean, how do you manage juggling the bills?
Well, I've been juggling for 35 years, especially the last sort of 20 years. So Neil had a good job, so had good money coming in, but I was always juggling it because of the amount he would be drinking. Started off with, he would just have a nice bottle of scotch. So even when he wasn't drinking as much, it was still expensive drink that he would have drank then. Then it just got cheaper, but more, so it was still as much money out the budget, and he became tighter with money to me. So, and that's one of the reasons I never really had to work much, was because he had that money coming in. Now I'm just living off of benefits, something I never thought I would do.
How are you getting by?
It's difficult. I just live within my budget, but it's tight. You know what I mean? Like, I've got my bus pass, so I can get over to Portbell. I don't want to go over there and see folk if I can't go into the cafes with them. I don't want to be seen as the one that everyone has to treat.
Is it, you said you're getting benefits? Is it pension you're getting, or is it
No,
benefits?
I'm only 62, so the pressure I'm getting at the moment to go back to finding a job.
Really?
But I'm scared if I give up the money that I've got, how am I going to find a job when I've only done wee bits of work? You know what I mean? It's a long time since I've had a full-time job.
You had any help with that? You know, that kind of the pressure.
I mean, they make me go to the job centre, but they just tell you to look for work, but they didn't really do much to help you.
Is that something that you would like to get some help about?
I think I'm going to have to, because I'm scared of losing the money. It's not that I'm not managing on the money I've got. I'm scared of losing the money I've got. I just don't know if I'm fit enough though to work full time.
I was thinking maybe more someone who can give you a bit more advice about your benefits and stuff like that, and make sure sometimes it's quite good to get some support with that, especially if you need to show that you're not fit for work or whatever. I was thinking more of that type of
that would be great. That would give me that bit more surety.
So I'll come back to that again in a minute. You mentioned that you're okay. You told me about your shopping, and you're okay managing around the house and stuff like that. What about the house and the neighbourhood that you're in now? How are they?
I mean, the house is little. I mean, I've come from a much bigger house down to this, so that's taken a little while. But I don't have that much with me. I mean, I've had to sort of get bits and pieces since I moved here. My daughter managed to help me get some furniture and stuff when I moved here. I mean, it's just the little living room and bedroom and kitchen and bathroom. So it's just basic, it's fine. I don't know the neighbour. I just know there's nothing much. I go out, when I do manage to go for a wee walk, there just doesn't seem to be anything here.
So there's not much happening in the neighbourhood?
I don't know. I don't know where to even go to find out. When you've lived in somewhere like Portobello for 30 odd years, you know what's going on, you know where to go. They're certainly not like the cafes or the bingo hall or stuff that's just here. It's just houses.
It's just a housing estate. But you would be interested in finding out if there was stuff?
I mean, if I could, that's my biggest thing, I think, is not having friends locally. And I'm assuming if there's other folk that I could meet here, probably their budget's going to be more like my new budget, where my friends have got more money than I have now. So I don't feel equal with them anymore.
I'll pick that back up when I'm kind of reflecting back to you, Kathy. That's us reached the end of the second part. Are you okay to continue? Do you want a wee break? Or?
No.
You sure? So you'll be glad to know that there's only really one question in the last part. And sometimes it can be a wee bit hard to answer. Just give it your best shot. Just do your best with it. If you can imagine, maybe say 18 months from now into the future, and your life had got a whole lot better, what would have changed?
Wow. when I'm sitting at home, sometimes I feel like I'm ranting to myself about him, things that would change. Ideally, I'd be back in my own house, but I can't see that ever happening. But I put a lot of effort into that house, and he's just fighting the solicitors all the way. So I suppose I'd want to be divorced for a start. Right. I want to be me, not part of him. I'd want to have some money out of the life that we had. I quite like, if I'm not getting back to my own house, quite like the size of house I'm in if it's just me. So I don't know. If I'd made friends here, I might be happy to stay here. Okay. If not, I don't know. I was able to get somewhere small, but that I could manage in Portobello. Yeah. But it can't be like a flat or something because I'm not wanting stairs. Yeah. So I don't know in 18 months' time where I would be living, right? Whether it's here or back in Portobello. I've got that fear of going back, that it can't be the same and people would know I was different in that. So sure. I don't know about that. Okay. And I would at least know where my money was coming from, whether that's, and don't get me wrong, I'd be willing to work, as long as I've got something that I can do. And I suppose the only thing about this house is it was never big enough if my son was going to come and visit, but he could be somewhere else. In an ideal world, I would be able to have my 2 kids in the room at the same time. That would be, great. Something really special. Good. Does all of that stuff that you've just mentioned there, does it seem possible? Not really. No? None of it? Really. I don't know. I just don't know where to start. Yeah. Maybe with a bit of support. Some of it somebody would, I mean, if I could, like you said, if there's some way of sorting out some of the money things. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. Okay. Well, we've come to the end of, the third part. What I'm going to do now is just reflect back to you. So you've probably noticed me making a couple of wee notes to myself. That's just to kind of jog my memory to reflect back to you. And what I was taking a note about were things that it seemed to me when I was listening to you, things that might be important for you to change, things in your life that might be important to change. And I'm going to reflect back just to see whether I picked you up correctly or not. So the first thing was really that I picked up is, since you moved to Bingham from Portobello, you don't really have much of a social circle, and you've kind of lost contact with the people that you went to the bingo with, and that's leaving you feeling a bit lonely. And would it be important to you to develop a new social circle and make some new friends? Definitely. Good, good. And to help me understand how important that would be to you, if you think of a scale of like 0 to 10, where 0 is not important at all, and 10 is it's really, really important, how important would it be for you to maybe make some new friends? Oh, it would be right up there, 9, 10. I mean, it's lonely. You know what I mean? When you think it's a week away from seeing somebody. Yeah. So maybe a 9? Yeah. Okay, good. You told me a bit about the fact that you haven't seen your son for a few years, and you kind of miss him, and you were talking about the house and getting the chance to get your kids together again. And I was kind of picking up that maybe that would be important to you, is to see your son again. Yeah. Is that right? Would that be important to you? Yeah. And again, for you, this kind of wee scale of 0 to 10, how important on that scale would seeing your son be? It'd be off the end of the scale. Was it? Just especially, not just to see him, but to have a relationship with him. Yeah. So that'd be a 12 out of 10. Okay. And the next thing that I took a wee note about was, you mentioned it might be quite good to get some help with your kind of benefits work situation, just get a wee bit of advice on that. Is that something that would be important to you? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, I know what I've got coming in just now, and I'm just
Mhm.
about managing on it.
Yeah.
But with the pressure I'm feeling from other people about it, and the not having the security of it, so probably about a 7. It's not as important as getting my kids and meeting people, but the pressure of it would probably make it about a 7.
Okay. And the last thing that I don't know if this was something that you might need help with, or if you're already involved in it, but you talked about the importance of getting a divorce and, you know, feeling as if you're kind of maybe put the past in the past. Is that something that you're getting any help with at the moment, or do you need any help with that? Or?
I mean, I got help to get out of where I was. And really, partly because of COVID things, I've just let it go. So I haven't really done anything apart from get away.
Sure.
I suppose in a way I've just got a bit more bitter and angry about it. But haven't really done anything about it. And I've no money to, you know what I mean, to go for it. I'm scared what a solicitor that would cost.
Would it be important to you to get some advice on that?
Yeah, it would be good to start to move it on.
So again, you know, to help me understand how important that would be to you. If 0 was it's not important and 10's it's really, really important, how important would that be?
I suppose about that 7 mark again.
Okay.
It's not as important as having people in my life right now, because as long as he's out of it, that's the most important thing.
Sure.
It would be good to get it sorted, and I do want to do it long term, but it's not as important to do it right now as it is to do the other things.
Okay. And with that, you know, we've got 4 things there that we could potentially help you with. Trying to help you get a bit more of a social circle, and you've scored that a 9. Re-establishing contact with your son, you've scored that a 12 out of 10, so that's a big score. Maybe getting some advice for your benefits, you've scored that a 7, and also maybe getting some legal advice about the divorce, you've scored that a 7 as well. Where do you think would be a good place for us to start when we meet the next time?
If I can get information about what's going on locally, that might be a start.
Okay.
I need to think about about my son and how we could do that.
Sure. Well, why don't we leave it there for today, and I'll try and see if I can find out a bit more about what is going on locally, and maybe we can meet again in a week's time and see how I can feed back to you what I found out.
Okay.
How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. How are you feeling?
I'm not quite sure. Talked an awful lot. I just need to think about what was said, maybe.
All right. So we'll make an appointment to meet again next week.
Okay.
Okay.